Welcome to the Third Take Pod School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Ooh.
It's time for
predictions.
We will have a bingo card for you up on the screen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Third Take.
As you can see, for our final episode of season 1, we're in a witch's coven with this lighting. Very excited for the season finale of our season 1. Yes! Can you believe?
Oh my god, it went by so fast.
Yeah. It's actually crazy because we just started in November and now it's the season finale, and we just want to, I want to thank you.
Oh my god, I want to thank you.
Thank you, sister. And I just want to thank all of our viewers. We've been very, very blessed to have you all. We really appreciate you listening to us, sharing your thoughts with us. As we said in the beginning, we're not perfect. That was in our first episode.
Yeah.
And we want this to be a learning journey for us as well. Mm-hmm. So we're very happy that you do share your thoughts with us on Instagram and in the comments. So thank you for being on this journey with us. And we will be back in February with season 2, but this is our season 1 finale.
Yes.
We will take a 1-month break like every great talk show host does. Looking at you, John Stewart.
Every institution as well. You know, I mean,
every institution.
Yeah, the Ontario Parliament is on break also.
U.S. Congress. Yeah, Canadian Parliament.
We don't have governance in North America right now.
We will be back faster than all the public representatives.
All that to say, today's episode is our 2025 predictions. We're going through our bingo card of our 2025 predictions, as you can see here. And we're also going to drop a link for it in our Linktree. You can access it through our Instagram, which is at the Third Take Pod. So Taha, why don't we just get into it?
I think let's get into our 2025 predictions as the wizard and witch that we are.
It's true.
It's giving wicked.
Ooh.
Oh, copyright. Okay, so first of all, Lubaba, the first prediction that you have is the ocean strikes back.
Okay, I have so much to say about this one. Because y'all remember when a bunch of orcas, a bunch of whales, started attacking yachts in, I think it was the East Coast?
Like off the Mediterranean somewhere?
Yeah. And like off the East Coast of North America. There was also the Titanic submarine with a handful of billionaires that got lost at sea. Anything along these lines, I think there's going to be something happening with the ocean. It could be, more yacht chaos. It could be more submarine chaos. There is another submarine voyage going down again, I heard.
So, Again? Who needs Luigi when you have submarine voyages? Like, I'm confused.
Billionaires are taking themselves out.
That's crazy.
But yes, one way or another, I think it's time for humanity to understand that the ocean will strike back.
And hurricanes are getting worse.
Yeah.
And also, recently in American news media, they were talking about how the government has found maybe traces of alien life in the ocean. And I was like, what an ending.
Yeah.
What an ending to the world. If the aliens come out of the ocean, we're like, I feel like we've gone on many tangents. Ocean will strike back. Next up, another prediction that I want to go over is Tulsi Gabbard and Usha Vance go to a baseball game and exchange sweets.
It's giving... Oh my god, what is this giving? It's giving Michelle Obama, yes?
And George W. Bush.
Oh, George W. Oh, I thought it was Bill Clinton. Okay.
No.
And George W. Bush. Oh my god, Taha, tell us about that one.
I just think that... I think if there's one thing America is really good at, it's like, look at us. We're America, American exceptionalism. And I just feel like we saw with Melania Trump in the first Trump turn how she copied Michelle Obama's speech. And I just feel like this is the moment for like... It could also be Melania Trump and Usha Vance. Who knows? Or it could be like somebody like that. For all we know, it could be Hillary Clinton and Usha Vance. Honestly, literally. But we just feel like there's going to be one of those moments where they're going to try to pull on our heartstrings, because apparently that's what our heart wants. As J.D. Vance, the now Vice President-elect of the United States, said, yes, my wife is a person of color, but she's a great mother.
What? Because they're exclusive. Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Moving on. Number 3, Baron Trump finally finds his suitcase.
My suitcase! Okay. No hate to a child, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah. But he's an adult now.
He's an adult now.
Yeah.
Maybe he will find a suitcase.
For any of our viewers that have not seen that viral video, what are you doing?
Go Google.
Just Google Baron Trump suitcase.
Suitcase?
Yeah, that's how he says it. A lot of people say that that video resurfacing after Trump winning the election is propaganda to get people to like the first family.
Oh.
Which I kind of get, because it's like
Okay.
a really cute video of
Yeah.
Baron Trump and like
Yeah.
a young Donald Trump and young
Yeah.
Melania Trump being
It
like,
humanizes them.
it humanizes them. And I mean, they are human, but it could be possible that it's a propaganda, but we don't know. We'll find out. Yeah.
Oh my God. Next up, wild prediction. Trump floats the idea of televising state executions.
See, this is really, really dark. And I think it can happen, unfortunately, because Trump has said time and again that he is in the favor of the death penalty, which insanity. I think that it is kind of crazy. It's a dark prediction, but it is very much possible because we're seeing how Luigi Mangione is being treated. Obviously, murder charges and everything. Sure, we can look. That's for the jury and the judge to decide. But then you have like terrorism charges against him.
It's quite ridiculous because he's even getting a perp walk by Eric Adams and like a C of NYPD. And it's because they're trying to make a spectacle of him, right? Like that, and that's really what this bingo piece speaks to. The fact that, Trump and the rest of the ruling class, how they are so ready to make examples out of the working class and out of revolutionary ideas, forces, and people.
Absolutely. And I think that's why, as morbid as it sounds, I think Trump has always been in the favor of the death penalty. And I'm worried that he's going to use it as an excuse to distract people from real issues. So people are going to realize that the Republicans are not actually good for the economy. They're not actually good for the working class. And Trump's going to be like very gladiator.
Oh, yes.
Like literally, like let's show you the mayor of New York walking this criminal as and like apparently a terrorist. No school shooter has been charged with terrorism.
It's true. Jordan Neely's killer is walking free.
Yeah, that's so messed up. And we really recommend that you look into the Jordan Neely case as well, because you really see how a person that choked a street performer that was homeless in New York City got off, and then you have Luigi Mangione being charged with terrorism. And I heard somewhere that the reason why they're charging him with terrorism is because in America or in most countries, when you charge somebody with terrorism, it basically means you don't have to follow the book anymore. You throw the law out and you can kind of do whatever, right?
No, of course.
Basically, it's really messed up. So it should scare everybody, right? Anybody that lives in a country where you could be charged with terrorism if you hurt specific special interests in the ruling class, that's not okay.
No.
And with this really morbid prediction, next up, we have the term reverse racism makes a comeback. Please don't.
Yeah, this one I have secondhand embarrassment consistently from. People on the internet love to dig up unnecessary ideas and amplify them. Particularly like when we have platforms like TikTok, when we have Reels, when we have this short form video messaging style being so popular and being what we rely on our media to be formatted as now, it's so easy for like new ideas to travel very fast, right? And so that also means that it's easy for old ideas to be resurfaced and to be widespread again. So
as a distraction.
Exactly. And so I really think that white people and POC white supremacists are gonna be on back on their bullshit this year. And for one reason or another, I think the term reverse racism is going to be circulating again in our conversations and be another issue that we have to deal with, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think I've had these conversations with many, even I would say even like friends who are like, well, I am like white and this person who is black, their family was racist towards me. And I'm like, okay, you have to understand that people can experience discrimination in many ways.
Exactly.
You can be discriminated against as a woman, as a white person, as we can
any identity.
Go into that, right?
Yeah.
Any identity.
We talked about weaponizing identity.
We literally
watch our episode 3.
But yeah, so I mean, you can experience that. But when we're talking about racism and how it's so insidious and how it's so overt and covert in our society, and then somebody comes in as a privileged person and says, well, I also, it's like, okay, but can we talk about that separately? Because we are trying to address a broader systemic issue
Yes.
where there are systemic forces like law enforcement, like governing bodies, like the prison industrial complex, like the military industrial complex.
Exactly. Like all of the colonial systems that we have in place.
All of the colonial systems, which are purposefully going after people of color in the United States and Canada, specifically Indigenous people, Black people, and now in the US, Latin people, and Muslims as well in Canada and US.
Yeah, and people with like precarious status, right? Migrants,
undocumented people. There's a lot to that. So to insert yourself there and be like, well, it's like, me as a man saying, oh, well, once a woman told me she hates all men, so I also experience sexism. Like, no, bro, you don't. Like, I don't. Like, because one person saying something to me is not a systemic attack on me.
No, exactly.
And it's just really ridiculous. But like, Lubaba and I, like, when we read that, she came up with it. And we were like, oh, should we keep it? But then, we should. Because this is cringy. But people are being really cringy right now.
Looking at you, Trump.
If you need orange color corrector, orange foundation, run to your stores now because it's going to be out of stock in the next 4 years.
It's true.
Yeah. We're like very confident going after Trump like
we
this.
Are.
Wow.
I think that last 30 seconds was really... Okay.
Well, as Republicans and everybody says, like free speech.
Yeah.
So we hope, President Trump, you can appreciate it.
Okay, on to a more happier note. I promise we don't only have morbid predictions here.
Yes.
The next one we have, U.S. sanctions on Cuba will be lifted.
I really hope so. Is it likely under the Trump term? No. Is it likely under Secretary of State named Marco Rubio? No. But we can hope, and this is one of our hopeful predictions that we want to manifest, because the people of Cuba have suffered so much at the hands of both internal politics, but also predominantly at the hands of U.S. sanctions that have been placed on them. And people don't know this, but Cuba has been listed as a terrorist state.
Yeah.
So then if another nation wants to trade with them, let's say France or Portugal is like, we want to trade with Cuba. We want to, like, it's really difficult for them to do so if they're existing in this U.S. hegemonic realm of world trade.
Yeah.
And I really hope that people of Cuba do get that relief, but we also understand that it is unlikely under Donald Trump.
Since there have been sanctions on Cuba for decades now, I think, it was really hopeful for me to see them still persisting and resisting in the sense that, like, Cuba has been coming to the table multiple times and continues to come to the table at the UN, motioning for sanctions to be lifted from them. They continue to resist after decades of sanctions, after decades of being victim to the US's political interests.
No, and I think it was also a really hopeful moment when President Obama did, towards the end of his term, try to mend things, but then Trump comes in, reverses course.
It was just too late.
And then not only does Trump come in and reverse his course, I think it could have been held. The problem that I have is that why is Joe Biden not doing it?
No, absolutely.
For the 4 years, he didn't follow up on that.
No.
He actually made things tougher for Cuba.
He did.
And it really makes you like think about how Joe Biden's presidency, for all of the local, domestic, left-wing political stuff he's tried to do, will forever be marked with both a perception of economic insecurity internally and a geopolitical destabilization of the global South and people of color, whether it's in Palestine, Sudan. Like, it's so messed up.
Complete apathy for the working class and for everyday people.
From a man that has built his PR career on being an empath. Uncle Joe, please. Like, miss us with that propaganda.
Yeah, literally miss us.
Yeah, he's so empathetic towards Western people. It's crazy.
Talking about empathy.
There's many empathetic people. There's many empathetic people in the Democrat Party and Lubaba.
Yeah, I think people like Tulsi Gabbard are just so empathetic sometimes that they side with the other side a little too loyally. And so our next prediction is that Hillary Clinton will come out of the closet as a Republican.
Yeah, it's okay, Hillary. They're in power now. You can feel
Yeah.
comfortable.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. You persisted.
Yeah,
Nevertheless.
even Tulsi Gabbard switched sides.
Yeah, I just feel like it's really funny because if Hillary Clinton was a politician in Canada or literally any other Western democratic nation, she would probably be her like policies would be more aligned with like the right wing parties.
Of
And
course.
it's funny that in the US she's hailed as this progressive and this like, democratic left wing person.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious as an outsider to view that
Yeah.
because you're like, you're a Republican.
No, you are.
Yeah.
It's like the Democrats have been moving to the center, just like the Liberals in Canada
yeah.
have been moving more and more to the center with their policies and their voting and their rhetoric. And the Democrats have done the same thing so far that Hillary Clinton is effectively doing a lot of the quote unquote centrist work of the Republican Party.
No, absolutely. And I think that people also, to all our viewers in the US and everywhere, we're not like just like talking smack about the US.
Yeah.
Like we're also like we know as Canadians that Canada's in really troubled waters right now.
Yeah.
And we will come to that too.
Yeah.
So and speaking of Canada, do you want to go with the next prediction and share with our viewers what we predicted?
Inshallah this happens. And I do think that there is hope. But we're predicting that Canada will break up with telecom monopolies.
For anybody that is outside of Canada, because if you're in Canada, you know exactly what we're talking about. If you don't live in Canada, our entire telecommunication systems is basically 2 to 3 companies.
Yeah.
2 to 3 rich oligarch families, basically, who are dominating our telecom. And we as Canadians pay some of the highest telecom rates, like data plans, phone plans, internet plans in the world.
Yeah, anything to do with your cell phone. We pay some of the highest rates.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we're really hoping, and also there's a huge issue with our grocery monopoly, where there's like 2 rich guys that own. Yeah,
we should have put nationalized grocery on here. Oh my god, we need to nationalize grocery. That's the next thing. But like telecoms is something that is like sort of almost getting there. I think there's like smaller.
I think we need to do an episode in season 2, which will be back in February. We'll do an episode on Canada's oligarchs, basically. Like Canada's monopolies on telecom, grocery,
mining. Oh my god.
Rail, airlines.
Literally,
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So next up, something more hopeful that we're predicting is that there is a new drug for HIV positive people. So right now, if somebody's HIV positive, as we know, HIV has ravaged people all over the world, specifically with people in the African continent facing the huge brunt of it. Yeah. And then obviously, how can we forget the AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s, where people suffered so much loss of life, and most of it due to the Reagan administration's lack of basically lack of everything. Yeah.
Literally just austerity, like cruelty at the governing level.
No, literally. Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan are looking up at us right now. So here's what I will say. The new drug, so right now, if somebody is HIV positive, there is a drug available that you take every single day. And then basically with that drug, with that medicine, you are undetectable. Right. Which basically means that you can't pass the HIV on to other people. So that in itself was a huge advancement.
Yeah. That was a game changer in public health, period.
I completely agree. And I think that now there's a new drug that is being floated, which is available, which is an injectable that you take twice a year instead of a drug daily. And it does the same thing, but it's actually 89% more effective.
Oh!
So but right now, there was a segment on BBC where they were discussing how it cost $40,000 per person for the 2 injectables per year to replace like the everyday pill. If you have HIV, you can buy the $40,000 drug. It's 2 injectables, you're done. But if you're not, a lot of people that are poor in the world don't even have access to the everyday pill. So the prediction that we're making, y'all, is that this new HIV drug that you just take twice a year instead of every day will finally be accessible for all.
Oh my God, please.
We know we're making a very big ask of the universe.
But we have to. We have to
manifest
because terrible things happen all the time. We have to manifest incredible things as well.
Yes.
Like these are, like the fact that this drug exists in a twice yearly injectable form now, that alone is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
That is massive, from going from taking pills every day, which was already great, to then just getting an injection twice a year. You don't have to constantly think about it anymore. Imagine the amount of like stress and anxiety and like social isolation that people with HIV must feel. Even if it's undetectable, there's still a sense of isolation that you probably feel.
Stigma.
No, exactly. Because there's still so many spaces where you aren't okay sharing that information. There's still so much stigma. There's still so much negative conversation around HIV, and so much also misinformation still, right? Like, how many people are going to be learning about like HIV undetectable through our podcast even, right? Like,
I hope that there will be people that will be learning
Yeah.
about it, because I don't know if people know that a lot of countries actually don't let you enter their country, even if you're undetectable, which means that you can't pass the
Right.
HIV virus.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really big problem.
Yeah.
So we're really hoping that, this drug is accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
It is given at cost or for free, actually,
Yeah.
to people specifically in the African continent and other
Mhm.
people all over the world that are suffering, that don't have the monetary means to access it. We're really hoping
And-
that it's accessible for everybody that needs it.
Absolutely. And hopefully we see that in policy as well. Because
Yes.
once we see it in policy, once we see it become an integrated part of our society,
Mhm.
then that's when we start to see the stigma
Yeah.
really reduced, and we start to see genuine acceptance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So speaking of public health, the next prediction, Lubaba, that
Oh my
we
God.
want to share.
This was my next nightmare. Our next prediction is that there will be a disease outbreak that wasn't supposed to be an issue anymore.
Are we saying preventable disease outbreak, like
Yes.
measles, or are we saying
Yeah.
a new virus?
No,
like
we're
COVID?
saying something that we had gotten
Preventable.
rid of, and now we're being irresponsible in our public health care and our systems,
Yeah.
and people are just exposed unnecessarily. Like, we're seeing bird flu come back in the States. We're seeing measles come back in British Columbia. We're seeing like chicken pox coming back, like in a more like in a less
Aggressive.
controlled way. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And these are all things that public health experts have spent decades, if not centuries, perfecting the solutions for. We have solutions for these things. We have methods of prevention. We have systems of care that have been established, that have been reliable and effective in like eradicating these diseases and keeping them at bay. And yet, I think that the irresponsibility of our public health action and preparedness in the Western world, especially, I think the irresponsibility of RFK Jr. and his little worm in his brain, and how they will be handling the US's Department of Health. I think the irresponsibility and the level to which a lot of our governance is being reckless with our public health, I think all of these factors are really what end up in a disease outbreak coming back, especially like a disease that is resurfacing in our societies.
Yeah, no, I
or at least in the Western world.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you. It's very sad. I recently heard that a cat died in Vancouver, in British Columbia, because there was cat food imported from the US that had bird flu. That had bird flu. Yeah.
Irresponsible. These are preventable issues. These are things that shouldn't be happening. We have systems in place in order to keep people safe. Our systems are supposed to work.
Yeah.
And if they aren't working, it's because our governing powers and our governing leaders have allowed them to fail.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And speaking of propaganda against public health care and just in general distractions that are thrown at our way, next prediction we have is that looting, the word looting, in headlines more than 5 times in the first 60 days of 2025.
Oh my God.
So basically, as we've always seen, there could be like 60 children that are killed in Gaza in 1 hour, let's say on a day, or Kamal Adwan hospital in northern Gaza can be besieged and attacked by the Israeli military. But instead of focusing on those headlines, our Western mainstream media is like, a CVS in New York City, somebody stole 6 Gillette razor blades.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, But we're not talking about why are people stealing?
Yeah.
Why are we creating a situation where people
Yeah.
have to steal basic hygiene products?
Yes.
Why is it that
Yeah.
deodorant is now in America and a lot of
In glass
drugstores? It's
cases.
like glass cases. But the thing is, people are like, oh, look what's happening to our country, deport immigrant. But it's like,
Yeah, no.
bro, you can deport every undocumented person and you can kick all of us out as documented people as well, as citizens, because you don't like brown people or whatever, or black people, but you will still have these issues.
Yeah.
Because if you think billionaires are just going to start sharing all their wealth with everybody because there's no people of color, you are severely mistaken, because
Yeah.
you forget the time when only rich white men had the right to vote and they didn't even share it with poor white men. And then eventually, when black people started getting rights,
Yes.
native people were fighting for their rights.
Yes.
The white ruling class, rich people were like, hey, poor white people, here's voting rights for you, for men and then women. So I think people need to be really focused that we're going to see a lot of this distraction about rising crime and looting and this. Yes, we need to have safe communities.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be looting.
Sure.
But we also need to actually figure out what should be done to address it. Something I always say to people in the building that I live in, like we have like a Facebook group for the building, right? And in that group, I see people complaining about, things like this, like crime, or like somebody went to Shoppers and stole a perfume, and they're like, I can't believe I live in this neighborhood where people are stealing perfume. And I always want to, and I would never comment, because it's like Facebook is like a hellhole where all people are rational discussions go to die.
Yes.
But like, I almost want to say to them that, well, then you should reach out to the member of parliament of our area and ask them what they're doing to address the cost of living crisis, the wage stagnation, because that is why people are stealing, right?
Why is a bar of deodorant $10 and minimum wage is $15?
No, it's actually crazy, because I have seen the price of deodorant skyrocket so much, and I love deodorant. I think it should be accessible to everybody for free.
Yes.
Because when people don't wear deodorant, I'm like, why?
We are overwhelmed.
Yeah, we are overwhelmed. Please wear deodorant. But
and shower.
And shower, yes. But what we're saying is that when you're making deodorant and showering so inaccessible for large swaths of people, it's a very sad reality.
No.
Because we're like in a developed country, and
why are people not able to access their basic hygiene needs?
Absolutely. Deodorant should not be $10, and if you live in Canada, you know exactly what we're talking about, because it is. Unless you find like that one stock that comes in at Dollarama that's like $4, or if you have a Costco membership, then you get cheaper ones. But that's also a barrier, right? Not everybody has a Costco membership. Yes,
it is,
Okay, enough about deodorant.
Taha, and I think the point that you're trying to make here is that all this comes back to what is the root issue that's causing these incidents? What is causing the looting? What is the root issue? What are people's social conditions and their material conditions that they're living in that have facilitated this action to be the truth? And why is then 60 children in Gaza being killed the headline that is ignored in order to prioritize this looting headline at CBS? Right? What is, like, that's what we're asking you guys, right? Like, what is the thread there? What is the, the purpose? Exactly.
To blame, Octavia, like, poor people.
Exactly. They want to turn us against each other. And this is what Octavia Butler speaks to a lot in Parable of the Sower. She speaks to the idea of entertainment and distractions being what gathers people's, like, grasps people's attention and distracts them from the real issues, the root cause of issues, solidarity, building bridges, and like seeing commonalities between each other, being able to come to a middle ground. Like, this entertainment is a distraction for us.
Yeah, and I think that that's what American news media has become, right? You have entertainment. Like, I love when people think that just because they listen to MSNBC or CNN or ABC News or whatever, that they are getting like unbiased news. They're not, because all we see is just a couple of pundits who, I don't even know if we should call pundits, just repeating the same thing 24 hours a day and not really having discussion or focusing on the facts. So and I mean, also Octavia Butler, Lubaba introduced me to her books recently. Parable of the Sower is one of them. Highly recommend that you guys read it. Ever since Lubaba gave that book to me, I can't put it down. It's incredible.
You will eat it up.
Yes. And speaking of incredible things, the next prediction is a little bit silly.
Oh my God, you're an icon. Incredible things.
Do you want to say this prediction?
Yeah, because I would like to say this directly to the friends of my exes that need to stop doing this shit. The next prediction is that white people can't become yoga teachers anymore.
And we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And it's also like, if you want to become a yoga teacher, is
Yogurt.
Yogurt teacher. If you want to become a yoga teacher, like, is Lululemon, a company that is founded by a racist millionaire, the right avenue for you to learn how to be a yoga teacher? Or should you be like supporting actual yoga teachers of South Asian descent, of people that practice that as a spiritual practice, and learn from them? So you're also like not just extracting knowledge from a culture, but also sort of experiencing it and immersing yourself in it.
Exactly.
But yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Next prediction is by Lobaba as well.
Okay, besties, let's be real. This year could be the year that Ariana Grande has a baby.
Would you like to expand?
I mean, not a whole lot, because like I respect women, but like also
good to know. I do too.
But like there's been a lot of chatter about some of the cast of the latest Wicked movie, where, you know, a certain redhead has been rumored to be canoodling, sharing sweets, if you will.
Is this part of the episode and not to Wendy Williams?
A certain redhead has been canoodling with Miss Grande. And so, and I'm so sorry, Ariana stans. Like, I am just not the person to come for, by the way. Like, I really am not that influential, so don't come for me. I'm just speculating.
And you're also like, when we were discussing this and we were like, should we even talk about this? Like, you are actually... Like, you would be happy for her, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
It's not like a read. No. It's not a...
She's a Cancer, isn't she? Like, she is meant to be mother.
Astrologically.
Yes. Yes. She is her zodiac sign is Cancer, I believe. Oh, like, she wrote Sweetener, yeah. Cancer is considered to be the mother of the zodiac. And so they're very about, like, care. They're very about the home. They're very about, and, like, the home in, like, many different ways. Like, and, like, so many of them love the idea of being mother. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Ariana Grande was in the same boat. But in any case, if we see a redheaded baby pop out next year,
don't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on from white people becoming yoga teachers and Ariana Grande having a baby. The next one is that our prediction is that more countries, specifically the ones in NATO, will start recognizing Palestinian statehood.
Oh, inshallah.
Because it's about time, guys. Like, I love how everybody who's a Western leader is like, two-state solution. Okay, have you recognized Palestine yet, Trudeau?
Yeah.
Polyev? Jagmeet Singh? Well, I know, like, NDP has been trying, but, like, still.
Yeah, two-state solution, we can start on one of them.
Yeah.
We can get started.
Obviously, as people that have, like, carefully researched these issues and learned from our Palestinian scholar friends, and also just in general Palestinian scholars' work, we know that two-state solution in itself is not the best solution, because it should be bless you, it should be one state where everybody has equal rights, whether you are Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Druze, whatever denomination, or even if you're atheist, like everybody deserves equal rights. But I think if two-state is what everybody's hung up on, it's so hypocritical that a lot of the Western nations don't recognize Palestinian statehood. Absolutely. Because wouldn't that be the first step?
Exactly.
In a two-state
solution? Put your money where your mouth is. Walk the talk.
And go and Google all the misinformation that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have been spreading about the Oslo Accords, because whatever they say about it is absolutely incorrect. So our hope is that for the Palestinian people, we obviously, you know, want a full ceasefire in 2025. We want way more.
We want a free Palestine.
We want a free Palestine. But I think one of the predictions we want to make is that more countries need to start recognizing Palestinian statehood. People are not stupid. We're seeing what's happening.
Exactly.
And
the first and
basically free Palestine in 2025.
The first step in freeing Palestine also is at the geopolitical level to get these geopolitical powers to recognize an entity as existing, right?
Yes.
Because once they recognize that it exists, and we talked about this with anti-Palestinian racism, once they recognize that it exists, then the state itself is more not required, but like is more
it's bound to
it's more bound to do something. It's incentivized to do something, but
Yeah.
specifically it is held accountable by itself in order to do something.
Absolutely, which is why we're seeing such a reversal of the practice and the following of international humanitarian law, because a lot of the hegemonic powers like the United States, like United Kingdom, like Canada, like Germany, France have decided that, oh, actually, no. We only like international law when we benefit from it,
right,
and not when it applies to people that we don't want to give rights to. So, free Palestine for 2025.
Yes. Moving on to back to the bullshit. But still on a lighter note, our next prediction is that the besties, the current royal couple.
Not the royal couple.
I know. The royal evil couple. I don't know. Trump and Musk are going to break up.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk are bound to break up.
Tell us about it.
I mean, recently I saw that yesterday Elon Musk was getting into fights with a lot of right-wing influencers like Tommy and all these other people because... or Laura Loomer, I don't know.
With his base,
because he said that he wants more immigrants to be let into America on like visas so they can work for billionaires like him. And people don't realize how exploitative a lot of billionaires and their corporations and companies are by hiring people from the global south through visas and then exploiting them for low wages.
Yeah, extracting their resources and then being like, figure out what you want to do about your livelihood and about citizenship, whatever. Yeah. We're not going to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that a lot of the right-wing I know that a lot of right-wing influencers were like, no, we want less immigration. We want these people to be deported, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So Elon Musk started like limiting their access to Twitter.
Whoa!
Like all of a sudden they couldn't access their accounts or they couldn't access certain following. Like it was just look it up, guys. It's crazy. So now we're seeing how the right-wing base is finally realizing like, oh, the billionaires are not actually looking out for our working class interests.
Crazy! Who would have thought? Wow, it's as if everything is a class issue.
Everything is a class issue. And I think that that's about to happen. And next prediction.
I don't have a lot of faith in this one. But I want to hope. Brown boys are finally going to redeem themselves.
That's the prediction.
Yeah.
Vivek Ramaswamy, you listening? Rishi Sunak, you're listening?
My exes.
You're listening? Treat our sister well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that as a brown boy, as a brown person, I think that a lot of brown men are so babied in our culture, especially in South Asia, and we need that to stop. We need brown men to realize that if your wife is pregnant and she's not feeling well, it is your job to make sure she's okay.
Absolutely.
When the child is delivered and it's the middle of the night and the baby's crying, you also need to go and help.
Exactly.
Right?
You also have to understand that just because you weren't raised like a certain way, for example, especially if you were babied in the way you were raised, it doesn't mean that you can maintain that in adulthood.
Absolutely.
Just unlearn that. Yeah, exactly. Just because your mommy babied you doesn't mean that your wife is required to.
All the brown men listening right now, I'm speaking to you as a brown man. You want Zionists to unlearn Zionism? Great. I want that too. She wants that too. We need you to unlearn misogyny. Yeah. We need you to unlearn a lot of the bullshit that comes out of your mouth. Because I love when like sometimes when, I talk to like fellow brown South Asian men and they're like, oh, well, Islam already gave all the rights to women. So why are women like protesting in the streets in Pakistan or Bangladesh or India about women's rights, And I always tell them, I say, do you think your sister or mother or daughter is safe at night in the streets? And if you don't think that, then that there's something wrong with society.
Exactly.
And I know that there's going to be like a lot of like Western wave feminist people that are going to be like, why are you even bringing up their wives and sisters and mothers and daughters? Why can't we just say women are human? Of course they are.
Yeah.
But you have to meet people where they are. Yeah. And for a lot of these men, like I'm talking to you, unlearn the misogyny. We need to actually practice what we preach.
Yeah.
And if we start doing that, then we can actually help other people unlearn things like Zionism, racism, and
exactly.
other things.
Accountability starts with you. You have to understand how to be accountable to your own community and to your own self first.
Yes.
In order to be able to receive real accountability from someone else.
I agree. And speaking of accountability and unlearning things, it is also our hope that we are manifesting that North Korea and South Korea again consider reunification. And I just think that you have the Japanese colonization of the Korean Peninsula back in the day. Then you have the Japan being defeated of the American colonization. Then you have dictatorship. Then you have Soviet Union and their proxies in North Korea, and America and their proxies in South Korea. And I just feel like the people of the Korean Peninsula deserve much better from both the neoliberalism in South Korea and the autocratic dictatorial rule in North Korea. I'm really hoping that there's some sort of, and it's kind of crazy that we're even saying this, because last time Trump was in power, there was like this small moment during the summit they had in Singapore where people were like, wait, are we about to normalize relations with North Korea? Like, is this the end of like all of this hostility? And at the last moment, he backed out, and people said it was due to people like John Bolton, who were like hawkish people who wanted Trump to not do that. Again, this is not a Trump stan podcast, please. I'm just saying that sometimes that man just says random things, and sometimes random things can be maybe good for people. I don't know. So I just hope that when we say ending hostilities with North Korea, we don't care for the Kim dynasty. What we're talking about is access for food for the North Korean people, access to medicine, access to internet. Can you imagine? North Korean people don't have access to internet freely, as many other countries and their people do. So yeah, that's one of our hopes. And we're just trying to manifest it. We know it's not easy.
No.
And
but nothing that happens in our world from here on out, I don't think any of it will be easy.
No.
Yeah, good or bad.
And speaking of things that we want to manifest and we know are not easy, the next prediction.
Our next prediction is that the world will finally turn its attention towards Sudan.
It's actually crazy how forgotten Sudan
or overlooked
has been overlooked.
The chaos and destruction in Sudan has turned into the worst humanitarian crisis that we are seeing. Period.
Yeah. And I think that it is really important. And I see this in Toronto, at least in the anti-war marches that we have, where Palestinian people are calling out people and saying we also need to address the situation in Sudan. And we see that solidarity from the other end too. We see people from Sudan, from Tigray, from other Kashmir, from the Congo, from other conflict-ridden areas that are also marching with Palestinians, the Palestinians marching with them. Guys, we really need to talk about this, because in Sudan right now, the violence has become really gendered. Sudanese women are, well, first of all, Black women in general in the world are always dismissed. They're not treated as human beings, whether it's healthcare in Canada, where they're not getting enough medication that they need, or
they're not taken seriously with a lot of their concerns.
Yeah, especially during maternity. And then now you see that kind of being manifested and amplified into geopolitics, where women in Sudan right now are deciding between living or not living because of the sexual assault they have suffered. And I mean, we're really trying to manifest and hope that with all the work that we're doing as communities, trying to talk to our members of parliament, guys, like, we need to address what's happening in Sudan and in Palestine. But at this point, we're talking about Sudan, because this has just completely been overlooked.
No, absolutely. And it's the Sudanese people deserve so much more from us. Yeah.
And speaking of people deserving more, the next prediction is that the guillotine makes a comeback.
What a segue.
I'm just going to let you go over that, because we at the Third Take podcast are against all forms of violence.
Yes, we
do not condone any violent actions taken by any members
in the world. Period.
In the world.
Period. Yeah, you know.
But the guillotine makes a comeback.
Yeah.
So what is a guillotine, Lubaba?
Oh, a guillotine? I think you can put that in your Google results. But if you don't know what a guillotine is,
Google French Revolution guillotine.
Exactly. I just think that French influences are going to come. French revolutionary influences are going to be coming back this year. That's my prediction.
And we will leave it at that.
Yes. Okay.
Speaking of French revolutionary ideas making a comeback, our next prediction is
Ontario will finally vote Doug Ford out.
Yes. So I don't know if you all know, but there's I know there's a federal election coming up, but there's also a prediction that there will be a provincial election in Ontario because Doug Ford doesn't want to wait until the federal elections because people are predicting and the polling is predicting that the Conservative Party would win the federal election. Yeah. And Doug Ford is part of the Conservative Party, but in Ontario provincially. Yeah. So basically Doug Ford doesn't want to wait because usually what happens is when the federal party is in power, the provincial party that's part of the same party loses. So he's going to try to force an election. Yes. And I would also add another like prediction here is that the Liberal Party finally loses an election in Canada because I feel like everybody knows that prediction. We're not unique, but I also think that I'm just hoping we get an alternative because
but Pierre a better Polyev, alternative.
No, like Pierre Polyev is not it. Trudeau's not it. The like Green Party changes its policies every 2 months. I don't know what's happening with them.
No, it's like Trudeau. You should have just gone through with proportional representation while you could have.
He can still do it.
Dude,
please. If you're listening, Justin Trudeau, please. We need proportional representation before you are kicked out.
Yeah. You've had 15 years of campaign promises surrounding this. You've had the plan. Make it happen, babe.
We will write the policy for you.
We'll do the research. We'll get the policy brief going.
You guys will have to do nothing.
Yeah, just carry out the program. the bureaucracy will do it.
But actually we're in a very unstable situation in Canada because you see like the prairie provinces, Alberta and everybody like saying they don't feel represented. Yeah. I think like if proportional representation was here, people would feel more represented.
Absolutely. And people also complain that like, oh, like the NDP will never win or like leftist parties at the federal level will never win because it's only Toronto and Ontario that are orange. Orange is the NDP's color, or BC, British Columbia. That
NDP is like the leftist party in Canada.
They're supposed to be the Labour Party.
Like the Democratic Socialists.
So it's like if we had proportional representation implemented in Canada, maybe everyone's interests would be better represented.
We're just trying to get ourselves through this year.
No, we really are. And we need to. That's what we need to do, right? We need to hold on hope and we need to actually believe that these things are possible in order to make them become our reality. Or else things are just going to hit the wall and our systems will collapse.
And thinking about things hitting the wall and systems collapsing. Our other prediction is
that a jury finds Luigi Mangione not guilty.
We will leave it at that.
Yeah.
The next prediction is that Ukraine and Russia reach a ceasefire deal. I think people of Ukraine have suffered a lot too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what's happening in the areas in Kherson, in Donetsk.
Again,
it needs to be
so unnecessary. All of these like wars, battles, they're so unnecessary.
Basically, it's turned into a proxy war between the West and Russia at this point. And I think that I am really hoping that there's less loss of life in 2025. I know it doesn't seem like it, friends, but you have the power.
Yes.
So let's make sure we're engaging our government representatives and making sure that we are not fueling the fires.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
Show up to action. Educate yourself. Do what you know that you need to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on.
Trump decides against tariffs on Canadian imports. I also think a lot of American Trump supporters are not realizing that if they put tariffs on Canadian imports, it's actually going to drive up prices for them.
Yeah.
And I know that the hope is that once foreign goods coming from Canada have a tariff and are more expensive, people will buy American goods. But then the thing is that America's not producing everything now. So if it's a long-term strategy, okay, but then what is Trump doing to actually incentivize long-term domestic production, right?
Yeah.
So
I would argue,
and also just us being like
25% increase on tariffs in Canada. We're already barely surviving. Just because we have more security and safety nets, like more social security than the US, for example, does not mean that we also don't have a cost of living crisis.
Can I say something here? Just to add on to this of why this might be an opportunity for Canada. In China, there is a nickname for Trump, and it's called Trump, the Chinese nation builder.
Oh.
And it's because when Trump came into power and started doing all this hawkish policies against China and starting a trade war, Chinese government started investing more in domestic interests in production. So I
Okay.
think Canada should take note. Yes, we're allies with the US, but we also need to be less reliant on America, and we need
Yeah.
more domestic production of food, products that we need. We have so much land
Yeah.
that we basically need to actually focus internally and see
Yeah.
what we can do. So maybe we can also start calling Trump the Canadian nation builder.
Can you imagine?
Not us asking
That's
for
actually
nation
what the
building.
that's actually what the bingo card should say.
Yeah.
Trump is the Canadian nation builder.
We will maybe change
Yeah.
that.
To end off,
Positive note.
yeah, I'm so motivated and amped for this idea.
prediction.
Yeah. Because I do think that our last prediction is that the Syrian people will elect a democratic leadership. I think it can happen.
I think it can happen. I know that there's a lot of pessimism right now, rightfully so.
And a lot of just like hands like in the cookie jar.
Yeah. There's a lot of powers, both internal and foreign. We can't dismiss the Turkish influence, American influence, Israeli influence, everything that's happening in Syria right now. But we're very hopeful. I think that Syrian people deserve to be represented by a government that represents all aspects and facets of the Syrian society.
Yeah.
Syrian Christians, Syrian Muslims.
Yeah.
Within the Muslims, there's Syrian, Shia, Sunnis, Druze. Everybody needs to be represented. And I really hope that, our hope is that we're optimistic and Syrian people will get to elect a democratic leadership in 2025. Well, that marks the end of this episode.
And the end of season 1.
End of season 1 of the Third Take. Can't believe it happened. Started in November, and here we are, and we will be back in February. In the meantime, please follow us on Instagram at The Third Take Pod. From Taha
and Lubaba,
we just want to wish you all a happy new year. We know it's a very stressful and sad time for a lot of us, and we just are just hoping that we don't lose the optimism, the momentum, and we have to hold on to hope.
Yeah,
and we will get through this.
Yeah,
we will get through this.
We have one another. Yeah. We have ourselves. Who do we have if not our communities?
Exactly. Right? Bye, guys.